working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
And you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. In the disputed South China Sea, a resupply mission successfully reached a remote outpost, overcoming attempts by Chinese vessels to block the boats carrying provisions for Filipino Marines. Ending a 3-month political deadlock, Thai lawmakers have approved Tycoon Srettha Thavisin as the kingdom's new prime minister. This decision coincides with the return of former Premier Thaksin Shinawatra from exile. A breathtaking rescue operation unfolded in Pakistan as a cable car line snapped, leaving 7 students and a teacher dangling 1,000 feet into the air. A helicopter's incredible intervention saved the passengers, and the dramatic video captures the life-saving moment. Tropical storm activity continues to impact the United States following the record rain brought by Hillary in California. Tropical storm Harold has made landfall in Texas, lashing the coast with heavy rains and tropical force winds. In a strategic move underlining bilateral relations, President Joe Biden will participate in the G20 summit hosted in New Delhi, India. However, he will not attend the U.S., ASEAN, and East Asia Summit in Jakarta, Indonesia. Vice President Kamala Harris will represent the U.S. in his absence. Srettha Thavisin's astonishing journey from corporate magnate to Thailand's 30th Prime Minister has become a riveting tale of transition. At the helm of a prominent real estate conglomerate, the 61-year-old swapped business suits for campaign garb when he emerged as the Pheu Thai party's choice for the highest official political office. Chosen as Prime Minister after preceding candidates faced rejection, Srettha's poised demeanor and strong family values struck a chord within the establishment. This rise followed the dismissal of Peter Lim Jan-Roenrat by junta-appointed senators due to the disquiet stirred by his proposed reforms. Pheu Thai's strategic realignment, forging an alliance with former military adversaries despite their previous anti-military stance, reshaped the political landscape. The reappearance of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra adds yet another layer of intricacy to a political arena he has profoundly impacted. In an interview with CNN prior to the May election, Srettha distanced himself from Thaksin, asserting his independence and his determination to revitalize Thailand's economy. During the campaign, Pheu Thai made a bold promise to deposit 10,000 baht, approximately $300, into a digital wallet for every citizen above the age of 16.
วันนี้ผมในเศรษฐาทวีสินรู้สึกเป็นเกียรติอย่างยิ่งที่ได้รับเลือกเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีคนที่30ของประเทศไทยผมอยากจะขอบคุณประชาชนคนไทยทุกคนพรรคร่วมรัฐบาลท่านสมาชิกสภาผู้แทนราษฎรอันทรงเกียรติท่านวุฒิสมาชิกทุกท่านที่ร่วมในการโหวตในวันนี้ผมจะพยายามทำหน้าที่ให้ดีที่สุดลืมความเหน็ดเหนื่อยยกระดับความเป็นอยู่ของพี่น้องประชาชนคนไทยทุกคนครับขอบคุณครับ
กลับมาแล้วก็อยากจะให้พรรคเรานี่ได้บริหารประเทศแล้วคนก็จะลืมตาอ้าปากได้ไม่ว่าจะเป็นด้านเศรษฐกิจหรือว่าสังคม
With an educational background spanning the UK and the US, Srettha's resolve to mend Thailand's economy stems from his extensive corporate expertise. Stepping into his new role, the market's positive response reflects optimism and anticipation in the trajectory of his leadership. Singapore's upcoming presidential election breaks from tradition with 3 contenders, a first in over a decade. The role, though mainly symbolic, carries weighty responsibilities including financial oversight and anti-corruption power. Incumbent Halima Yacob's 2017 uncontested win contrasts with a competitive September 1st vote. Notable candidate Tharman Shanmugaratnam, ex-Deputy Prime Minister and Central Bank Chief, is seen as a strong contender after leaving the ruling People's Action Party.
It will be a more difficult and challenging future that we face, which is the reason why I have entered this contest, to offer all my experience and capabilities on the ground for a few decades, nationally and internationally, so that I can serve Singaporeans in the role of president with all my heart in the years to come.
Also in the race, Eng Kok Song, former Chief Investment Officer at GIC, a sovereign wealth fund.
I do not belong to any political party, and so I'm well placed to unite the people of Singapore to face an uncertain future.
And businessman Tan Kin Lian, a past presidential contender.
I want to give the people of Singapore a chance to vote for a president who is truly independent of the ruling government.
Strict requirements dictate candidates must have held high-ranking civil service or substantial corporate positions. Singapore's government structure designates the Prime Minister for governance, while the President holds the symbolic head of state role without party affiliation. Key powers include vetoing appointments and initiating corruption probes. The president also guards the nation's reserves, tapped only during crisis. Voting is set against the backdrop of uncertainty marked by COVID-19 and the 2009 financial crisis.
Well, I'm hoping for a president, that have got no baggages to think about and can be very independent in decision making on key appointments, right? And to restore faith and trust in our own institution.
I want someone who's able to pull all the religion together and who has a good track record. I think that is very important to me.
In a nail-biting rescue operation, military helicopters and zipline experts heroically saved 8 lives, including 6 schoolboys left stranded for hours in a distressed cable car high above a remote Pakistan valley. The daring mission began with a helicopter airlifting 2 children to safety after nearly 12 tense hours, just as daylight faded. A subsequent attempt was thwarted by darkness, but undeterred rescuers ingeniously used the cable itself as a zip line to bring the remaining stranded individuals to safety late into the night. People were praying for the rope's strength until the last person was saved, according to emergency official Waqar Ahmad. The military confirmed the mission's success, with the 2 adults being the final ones rescued. A video showed a teenager hanging beneath a helicopter, met with cheers from onlookers. Amidst tears of relief, makeshift camps provided much-needed aid. Caretaker Prime Minister Anwar ul Haq Kakar praised the teamwork involved and issued a directive for chairlift safety inspections. The incident unfolded when a malfunction left 6 children suspended over the lush Alai Valley. Aerial sorties and supplies were delivered and a crowd of concerned onlookers gathered. Cable cars are crucial in connecting remote areas where roads can't be built. In 2017, a similar incident resulted in tragedy near Islamabad.
ऐना बाद में जांगो डेरा कता बदला मुंग डेर परेशान हूँ देना बाद बिया जाजुना राला अगुनो मुनो शो बिया रास्ते बिशाम टीम और मानसेरी टीम राला मुंग बस मंगा लाडू लगा खत्म हुआ आखिरी रास्ता
कह रहे थे कि हमारे पहला हेलीकॉप्टर जब आया उन्होंने बहुत कोशिश की, बहुत मेहनत की, लेकिन हमारे समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि क्या हुआ। वो वापस गया, उसके बाद एक दूसरा आया, वो भी वापस गया, फिर वही हेलीकॉप्टर फिर वापस आया। कोशिश करता रहा 3, 4, 5 घंटे तक। बलाखिर शाम में उन्होंने एक बच्चे को रेस्क्यू किया, फिर जब रात के अंधेरा चाह गया तो वापस चले गए। फिर यहाँ पे जो मकामी टीमें थी रेस्क्यू की, या जो हमारे पाक आर्मी के जवान थे, वो जो बाई रोड आए हुए थे, वो भी यहीं थे। सब ने मिल के कोशिश करके हमारे बच्चों को वहाँ केबल कार से निकाल दिया।
In a display of determination, a resupply mission successfully reached Ayungin Shoal on August 22, Tuesday, despite apparent efforts by the China Coast Guard and militia to obstruct two chartered vessels carrying essential supplies to Filipino soldiers stationed at BRP Sierra Madre.
Ang Philippine Coast Guard vessel po na dalawa, kasama po ang ating dalawang supply boats na charter po ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Nang makarating po tayo dito sa distansya na 2.5 nautical miles, no, sa bunganga ng Ayungin Shoal kung saan papasok na po ang ating supply boats, ay naka-experience po tayo ng dangerous maneuvers ng 4 na China Coast Guard vessel at ng 4 na Chinese Maritime Militia. Kanila pong nag-execute po sila ng different ways, no, for the Philippine Coast Guard vessel to be separated from the supply boats so that they can be able to prevent the supply boats from entering the shoal, no. Well, ang dangerous maneuver is a violation of the coal regs, no. Ito ay isang international regulations na kasama naman ang People's Republic of China sa pagpirma dito. Kung makikita mo sa video na pinapakita natin ngayon sa screen, no, ang China Coast Guard ay hinaharangan ang Philippine Coast Guard vessel na makadiretso patungo sa Ayungin Shoal at ito yung dalawang pilada ng barko, and then sa malayo-layo pa, kung makalagpas tayo dito, haharangan ulit tayo ng pangatlo pa. There are also other videos that we have showing na ang supply boats natin ay hinaharangan din ng China Coast Guard vessels at ng 4 na Chinese Maritime Militia pa, sir.
Na we stand in the community of nations, they are with us while the other side is not. They are all alone, they are lonely, they are isolated. So, siyempre, pasalamatan din po tayo sa ating Panginoon na naging matagumpay ang ating misyon dahil ito po ay para sa national interest ng ating bansa.
While China Coast Guard spokesperson Liu Dejun asserted that the Philippine vessels had entered the waters surrounding the Second Thomas Shoal without China's permission, the Coast Guard eventually permitted the supply boats to proceed on humanitarian grounds. Liu clarified that this decision stemmed from the absence of illegal building materials for substantial reinforcements on the Philippine vessels.
They want to show the world na kunyari they are not really that aggressive in preventing our resupply operations. Kaya nag-adjust sila ng dalawang mas maliit na barko. But then again, it's still defeating the argument nila, no, na sinasabi nilang they are humanist na term nila or naging makatao sila sa pagpapasok ng resupply operations. As I said, and I'm going to repeat it once again, the resupply operation that we had yesterday is not a walk in the park. We still experienced dangerous maneuvers. They still attempted to block our resupply operation.
China's deployment of numerous vessels for South China Sea patrols, coupled with its presence around reefs, remains a contentious issue. The Chinese Coast Guard and Navy routinely obstruct or shadow Philippine vessels in the disputed waters, leading to international condemnation and sparking concerns among allied nations and partners.
In fairness to them, I would say that there is a change in the behavior. If you are to compare what happened on August 5 to what happened yesterday, they were not so aggressive. Probably they learned a lesson. They learned a lesson that violence has no place in this world. Especially if that violence is founded on something that is not acceptable to the international community. And that violence is doing to encroach or to subvert or to suppress the rightful expression of rights of other countries.
The Philippine Navy deliberately grounded the World War II-era BRP Sierra Madre on the shoal in 1999 to check China's advance in the waters. The troops stationed on the rusty ship depend on regular deliveries for their survival. Second Thomas Shoal is about 200 kilometers from the western Philippine island of Palawan and more than 1,000 kilometers from China's nearest major landmass, Hainan Island. The Philippines has insisted that Second Thomas Shoal is within its exclusive economic zone and therefore its efforts to resupply troops and repair the BRP Sierra Madre are legitimate.
Sa lahat, no, we don't need permission from the People's Republic of China. Ang Ayungin Shoal ay napapaloob sa ating exclusive economic zone. We have the sovereign rights over these waters. Pangalawa, it's not also true that they are makatao or extended humanitarian assistance para makapasok ang ating mga supply boats. As what I mentioned a while ago, no, ang ating supply boats, ang Philippine Coast Guard vessels, ay tahasan pa rin hinarang ng mga China Coast Guard vessels at ng kanilang Chinese maritime militia.
Australia's largest warship, HMAS Canberra, has joined forces with the Philippines and the United States in a show of unity through joint military exercises in the South China Sea. The maneuvers are aimed at strengthening defense ties and countering China's growing military presence in the disputed region. The joint drills, known as Exercise Alon, are part of Australia's annual Indo-Pacific Endeavour activity and include over 2,000 troops from Australia and the Philippines, along with around 150 U.S. Marines. The exercises encompass air, sea, and land operations and are taking place from August 14 to the 31st. Monday's simulated air assault near the Philippine island of Palawan occurred roughly 200 kilometers away from the Spratly Islands, an area where tensions between the Philippines and China have been long-standing.
Through this, we are increasing our interoperability. And through this, we are learning from each other to further strengthen our defense capabilities.
Of a changing and evolving relationship between ourselves and the Philippine Armed Forces. After Malawi, we've increased the number of training activities we did together, the number of events both in Australia and here in the Philippines, and we've reached, I guess, another evolution of that training in terms of its complexity. The most important aspect of it is actually the relationships. The ability to work together on some sort of challenging problem, find a solution, and then act on it. And this just builds levels of trust and cooperation.
The commander of the Western Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines emphasized the significance of maintaining a rules-based international order, especially in the South China Sea, a crucial trade route.
For us, it's most of the trade. There are a lot of trade passing through the Indo-Pacific regions, particularly the South China Sea. So it's our efforts is really to keep it freedom of navigation, and also at the same time establish a rules-based international order.
The joint exercises are viewed as essential in underpinning regional security, stability, and prosperity.
Point that it's essential to underpin our security and stability, which then leads to prosperity, and where people are able to grow and prosper and have great prospects. We're undertaking amphibious operations with the entire joint force, so air, sea and land capabilities, space capabilities as well, which help us understand where we are.
As tensions persist over territorial claims in the South China Sea, these joint drills signal a united effort by Australia, the Philippines, and the U.S. to ensure stability and uphold a rules-based international order in the region. Tropical Storm Harold made its presence known as it swept across the southeast coast of Texas. The storm brought with it intense rain and high winds that have left a mark on the southern United States.
You can really see this tightening circulation, and this is a little bit to the north of where we were previously tracking it, and it's also, based off latest observations, a little bit stronger. Now 50 miles per hour. So we don't anticipate a rapid intensification. We're not forecasting this to become a hurricane, but, and this is a big but the rainfall threat will be just as significant, where we anticipate up to 15 inches of rain over Hispaniola. And as time marches on, it looks like the heaviest rain is going to be focused on the Dominican Republic.
This weather event has led to significant rainfall, with some parts of Texas receiving as much as 7 inches or approximately 17.7 centimeters of rain. By late Tuesday afternoon, the storm's intensity had waned, leading to its downgrade to a tropical depression. Nonetheless, the heavy rainfall persisted, continuing to impact the region. The effects of the storm have not been without consequences. As of Tuesday night, over 23,000 residents of the Lone Star State were left without power, grappling with the aftermath of the storm's force. This event comes on the heels of another significant weather occurrence in the southwestern U.S. The day prior, historic levels of rain from Storm Hilary led to widespread flooding in California and Nevada, leaving communities to cope with the aftermath of the deluge. Texas Governor Greg Abbott activated emergency resources, including rescue boats, search and rescue teams, and units from the state's National Guard. Wind gusts reaching up to 59 miles per hour were reported near Corpus Christi. As Tropical Storm Harold moves further inland, it's projected to continue carrying rain, wind, and hail across the hot and arid landscape of Texas. The inclement weather is expected to gradually subside by Wednesday. In other news related to the Lone Star State, there are currently approximately 194,427 Filipino residents living in Texas. In response to Japan's plan to release water from the Fukushima nuclear power station, the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government has announced strict measures. Starting from August 24th, the import of aquatic products originating from 10 metropolises or prefectures in Japan will be prohibited. At a media session, Secretary for Environment Ecology Che Chien-wan highlighted the precautionary principle guiding their decision.
In order to help the restaurants, I think the best thing to do is to ensure people of Hong Kong that all food that can be allowable to import to Hong Kong is safe. Yeah, that's why we have a plan to prohibit those food from the Japanese prefectures, which we believe to have some risk. Yeah, and then we have also have to check all the food import from Japan to ensure that the radioactive level which meet all the standards. And therefore, I believe with all those measures in place, we can assure people of Hong Kong that all food sold in the Hong Kong market is safe, including those allowable from Japan. I think that is the best way to maintain the business of the Japanese restaurants in Hong Kong.
The banned products include live, frozen, chilled, dried, and preserved aquatic items, along with sea salt and unprocessed or processed seaweed. The Center for Food Safety will intensify testing of imported Japanese food, ensuring public safety. When questioned about the duration of the prohibition, Mr. Che stated that the government does not have a set timetable. The duration will depend on the information provided by the Japanese government, particularly data on radioactivity levels and monitoring procedures. In addition, the Hong Kong SAR government will monitor radioactivity levels in local waters and fishery products, sharing daily data with the public. China is endorsing the expansion plans of the Brisas Club, a coalition of key emerging economies aiming to amplify their worldwide political and economic influence. Comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS bloc represents a significant quarter of the global economy. As the summit unfolds in South Africa, interest in joining in this influential group has surged. At the summit's inauguration in Johannesburg, President Xi Jinping's speech, delivered by Commerce Minister Wang Wentao, underscored China's rejection of hegemony. Mr. Xi emphasized the intent to expand the architecture of peace and development without fostering divisions or confrontations. China, a major economic powerhouse, takes the lead among the BRICS nations. President Xi's visit to South Africa further highlights China's aspiration to swiftly broaden the group's membership. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin, addressing the summit via pre-recorded video due to an international arrest warrant, attributed the serious global economic impact to sanctions, which he claimed disregard fundamental norms of free trade.
Серьезное негативное влияние на международную экономическую ситуацию оказывает и нелегитимная санкционная практика, незаконная заморозка активов суверенных государств, а по сути попрание всех базовых норм и правил свободной торговли и экономической жизни, которые еще не так давно казались незыблемыми.
Over 40 countries from the global south, including Indonesia, Ethiopia, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Kazakhstan, Vietnam, and others have expressed interest in joining BRICS. These potential additions span diverse political systems, economic strengths, diplomatic positions, and cultural backgrounds. Some openly oppose the U.S. and its allies, reflecting a wide spectrum of affiliations and alliances. In a strategic move underlining the significance of bilateral relations, President Joe Biden is set to participate in the upcoming G20 summit hosted in New Delhi, India. However, he will not be attending the U.S. ASEAN and East Asia summit taking place in Jakarta, Indonesia. Instead, Vice President Kamala Harris will represent the U.S., as announced by the White House on Tuesday. The G20 summit is scheduled from September 7 to the 10th, with leaders of the world's top 20 economies gathering to discuss crucial global matters. The U.S.-ASEAN Summit and East Asia Summit remain crucial for regional collaboration. While Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently engaged with ASEAN, Vice President Harris will continue these discussions in Jakarta. The administration's Indo-Pacific focus, including engagements with Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Australia, and India, demonstrates dedication to the region. President Biden hosted Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the White House earlier this year, signifying the U.S.'s continued commitment. And finally in our news, 3 exceptional musical forces unite for an unforgettable debut at the renowned Walt Disney Concert Hall. Here's MJ Racadio from our LA Bureau.
Hollywood's triple threat, 2-time Grammy winner Tia Carrere debut at Walt Disney Concert Hall this weekend, along with saxman Michael Paulo, with special guest, 10-time Grammy-winning a cappella group Take 6. Take a look. Also performance by talented Chris Chapman. The unforgettable performances of dynamic duo, 2-time Grammy winner Daniel Ho and Tia Carrere. Special guest, 10-time Grammy-winning a cappella group, Take 6.
That was beautiful. That's like almost like a follow-up of your Wings World.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just waited a long time ago, and after COVID, I just felt like I could celebrate still being here, all of us being here.
Yeah, but it's beautiful, and you're such a rock star.
Thank you. You can find I'm still here on YouTube.
Yes,
I put it on my channel.
You're just so still stunning.
Thank
over
you,
the years.
MJ.
Yes. Mahalo. Mahal kita.
Mahalo.
Yes. Salamat.
Maraming salamat po.
Yes. But congratulations with your show.
Thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it.
The best a cappella group in the world.
Oh, you are so kind. Thank you so much, because there's some great a cappella groups out there.
10-time Grammy award winner. Yeah, so what's next for you guys? Are you working on an album?
Yes, we're working on another project and starting for April of next year.
MJ Ricardi here, always tune into Net 25 because we live in extraordinary times.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.